Hi, I'm Alex Young. I'm an account executive at Security Health Plan, and today we're going to talk about the basics of health insurance. We'll talk about the costs of going to the doctor. We'll look at the types of plans that are available to folks, whether it's through an individual policy or an employer-sponsored plan. And we'll talk about some terms and definitions you need to be familiar with so you can judge the product you're buying. I always like starting with, what does it cost to go to the doctor? If you're young and healthy, you probably don't realize some of those costs associated with hospital bills. For instance, emergency rooms on average are about $500 per visit, and that doesn't include services for blood work, x-rays, or diagnostic testing. Walking into your regular doctor, if you have a family practitioner and have an office visit with that family practitioner, on average is going to run about $160 to $200 per visit. If you need specialized care, if you have to see a specialist, those visits can run $300 or more per visit. And of course, on top of all these charges, if you have any prescription drugs, on average, you can expect to spend about $70 per prescription per month. So, a huge amount of burden there. If you ever have that worst case scenario, that's why you need health insurance, to protect you from these costs. Now, typically, when we think of folks who are admitted to the hospital, what is the average age group? Well, it's no surprise that the average age group is 65 years and older. However, what is surprising is the second most or highest admitted age group are the ages of 15 to 44. And as you dive into that number more, and especially looking at costs, you'll see that the folks between ages 15 and 44 cost more when they're in the hospital, mostly due to the fact because it's usually following an emergency. So, again, great reasons to protect yourselves, and if you're young and healthy, insurance can be very cheap compared to these costs and burdens. One example I always give, I had a customer whose daughter had just graduated college. She got a job in another city and came off of her parents' insurance policy. She had 2 months to go before her plan through her employer kicked in. In that 2-month time frame, she decided to go without coverage. She decided to risk it. Unfortunately, one day she was walking down the sidewalk, was hit by a motorcyclist who had no insurance on his motorcycle, and of course she had no health insurance. She spent 2 weeks in intensive care in the hospital and had a bill close to $500,000. She ended up filing bankruptcy, and while she did fully recover and has no problems to this day with her health from that accident, she does have that burden of every time she applies for a loan, she's got that bankruptcy out there. So again, that's the important reason why someone young and healthy should have health insurance. Now, how do you get insurance? If there's a couple ways to do it. If you're an individual and you don't have employer-sponsored coverage, or if you're self-employed, there's a ton of individual products available that you can get on your own. If you do have an employer-sponsored plan available, you need to know a few things about that policy as well, and many of the terms and definitions that we're going to talk about in a few minutes will apply to that coverage too. But first, let's talk about that individual coverage. What you you need to know is there are a couple plan types available here in central Wisconsin. Commonly, there's health maintenance organizations and PPOs. Health maintenance organizations, or HMOs, are companies that are geared towards preventive care, to making sure their customers are staying healthy or recovering following a hospital stay or surgery. They have a network of doctors that their customers need to go to in order for their care to be paid for. Typically, HMOs will cover you for emergencies anywhere in the world. Now, PPOs, or Preferred Provider Organizations, are insurance companies that have an in-network set of doctors that you need to go to for your care. However, you can also go to doctors that are not in the network, but you'll be responsible for a higher amount of out-of-pocket costs. That was a lot of health insurance language. I just used a lot of terms that are really common to my industry. I kind of forget, I have the tendency to forget that a lot of folks aren't familiar with those terms. So let's kind of define. First thing you need to know when you're shopping for health insurance: premium. That word